Everyone's goal has been to find 12-year-old Brittany Smith.
We have located Brittany.
They were panhandling outside of a Safeway grocery store, had also been camping out nearby. Someone inside that store recognized the two and called 911.
We again want to thank everyone who's had a helping hand in finding 12-year-old Brittany Smith.
She'll be able to help her mother. Rest in peace tonight. Virginia investigators say Jeffrey Scott Easley faces felonies for credit card fraud and abducting the girl, but may in fact be involved in a far more serious crime.
His focus has shifted to the murder investigation.
The murder of the girl's mother.
Without your help, this case could have ended much differently.
We are taking your calls live out to Tracy in North Carolina. Hi, Tracy. I think I've got Tracy. Liz, do we have Tracy? Let's go to Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, dear. What's your question?
Well, I do have a question. I'm wondering why the police aren't considering Brittany as a part of this murder. She seems to be totally compliant with this man. She knew her mother was dead, and their only focus is to get her reunited with her family. I'm very curious to find out in the end how she's involved in this murder. Very sadly, it happens every day.
Mm-hmm. You mean patricide or a child killing their parent happens every day?
Well, yeah.
Does it? I didn't know that. You think it happens every day?
I think, maybe not every day, but very, very often.
Because I thought it was extremely rare. She's not a teenager. She's 12 years old, number one. But yeah. I thought patricide is extremely rare. But let's take a look at that for a moment. Let me go out to Ron Martinelli, forensic criminologist. It's my understanding that patricide, the killing of a parent, is very rare. It's not that common.
I would say more that it's not a frequent occurrence. It's an infrequent occurrence.
Okay, to Stacy Kaiser, psychotherapist. What about it, Stacy?
It's not frequent at all, and particularly with young girls. I mean, they're not considered to be violent people. And I also have to say, a 12-year-old is not accountable for their behavior. They're 12, so this is somebody who's just beginning to get into her own, and she's probably influenced by the man over everything else.
Let's see, 12 years old, what are you, in the 5th grade?
No. Yeah, you're pretty much in the 5th grade, and you're just starting to come into who you are.
7th, I believe.
Let's take it through. So, relatives noticed an inappropriate relationship at Thanksgiving. Multiple relatives called Family and Children's Services in two jurisdictions. What were they, Jane? What were the two jurisdictions?
The two jurisdictions you're talking about, say that again?
Where DFACS was called. One was, I think, Hillsborough, and the other one
was... In the Virginia area. Yes, in the Virginia area. It was called twice. They were at they're having a Christmas party, didn't have time. Finally, a call back came, and the grandmother said, it's too late, she's gone. You know, Nancy, what I'm thinking about is, what cases have I covered where children have killed their parents? I've covered several of them, but they were all older, but they involved a boyfriend, and the boyfriend really persuaded the son or daughter to help in killing the parent.
Well, I mean, there's, for instance, Menendez. They were up in their 20s. Then the others that you have covered, that you and I have covered together back in Court TV, they were up in their late teens when this one happened. It was Halifax and Roanoke County. Ellie just told me in my ear. Both of those Family and Children's Services were called. They did nothing. But back to the question, Debbie's question about why the girl hasn't been charged. Number one, we don't know how she knows her mom is dead. For all I know, he told her some cockamamie story. We don't have any reason to believe she took part in her own mother's murder yet. We have no reason to do that. And if this child has been kidnapped, she's a 12-year-old girl, and if she has been raped and sexually assaulted, you know, I just don't see charges coming down. What about it, Lawless?
Assumptions about this girl without any evidence, Nancy. There's an indication she had opportunities to flee, didn't do it. She changed her name on her Facebook page. We just don't know. I'm not saying she did. I'm not saying she didn't.
Wait a minute.
It's just as possible she was a participant.
Wait a minute. Do we still have that video of Shasta Groney? Liz, if you do, put it up. Gloria Allred, many times you don't see a kidnapped child try to flee the kidnapper. That's not unusual. That's not unusual at all. We have video of a little girl, 12-year-old. There she is. Look at Shasta. Her whole family was murdered in front of her eyes. Her brother was molested and murdered in front of her eyes.
She's not 12.
And this is the
like
killer
7.
she's with. She's not trying to run. But obviously she didn't want to be with him. He was molested. You know, that doesn't mean anything. You can take Shasta down. It hurts me to even look at it. I wish I hadn't called for it. But the fact that Brittany wasn't running away, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, that's true. And of course, we know, we just heard Elizabeth Smart testify, and that, in fact, that she was threatened that members of her family would be killed if she tried to flee. And in fact, if this little girl knew that her mother had just been killed by Easley, if in fact he did it, she might have been afraid to go. So
Out to Dr. Glenn Kalansky, joining us out of New York. Dr. Kalansky, how could you place a time of death on the mother's body many, many hours later? She wasn't discovered for days.
Well, you know, it's very easy. Not easy, but it's basically what you can look at the body is the color of the skin, the turgor in the skin. Bacteria seem to take place about 48 hours after death, and radiating from the abdomen on, the skin gets a greenish color. And then over time, the bacteria set in and the body starts to decay. So you can kind of get within the first few days.
I can't think of the children's names where the 2 boys killed. I think the father, they were young, 10 and 9, 10 and 7. They looked 4 and 2 when they were on the stand. You had Elizabeth Olten, who was killed by a 15-year-old teenage girl. It's happening more and more these days. Not necessarily that it's children killing parents, but they do. It's rare, but it does happen. If I get some time, I'll research it and post it, but Nancy was just being technical, and a good thing that she didn't become obnoxious and rude when she was speaking to that caller. And again with DCF, boy, that just ticks me off.